Welcome back to another episode of Procrastination Garage. My name's Matt. So what's on the agenda for this week? Well, I'm not going to give you all the details right now, but I can tell you that I need to be in Puyallup, Washington with my white truck and the camper on the back, and I am not ready. So let's go. Today's the day that the green truck goes back to work. Let's do a little shuffling. It feels good putting the green truck back to work. Getting ready to go mow. Got my mower helper right there. You ready, dog? Let's do it. Mowing is done. Dog and I are headed home. In fact, we're almost home. You know, I really like this old truck. I forget how much I like it until I haven't been driving it for a while. It's crude, it's got rough suspension and a manual transmission, but it's just a nice old truck. I've owned it since about 2000. It was about a year old when I bought it. So anyway, that's it. Moving on to something else. That beat up camper needs to be mounted on tow beasts by Friday morning. That's not so hard, but I've got a pile of lumber sitting in front of it that I'd like to get cut up first. And then the tree pieces that we took down a video or two ago, I'd like to get those moved out of the way and split. I don't want to just move them, I want to get them split. So let's tackle that right now. I think first thing we're going to do is get the chainsaw out. That piece there, that one, and another one down in here needs to be cut up a little more before we split them. that pile of wood is gone. Got it all split up, you saw it. Here's the residue I've got left over. Needs to go on my burn pile. And then the wood, a bunch of it is stacked right in there. This wood needs to dry, it's pretty wet. Actually, there is some wood in here that's already dry, and all this other stuff is dry. I still need to split all that, but remember the goal is to get to the camper, so we're working on it. Here we are a couple days later, and it's time to do some of these boards. These are recycled fence boards, 2x6s, and I need to find some good ones and rip them down to 1x3s because I want to make some rudimentary storage shelves to put in my shipping containers I've got. They're going to be roughly 7 feet tall. There'll be 4 shelves across, 24 inches deep, and the width on the shelves, the overall unit will be probably around 8 feet. So we'll see what we can do. But first we've got to get these cut up. I've got my work area all set up. The boards are right there. I move one over here to the miter saw, and I try and get a 8-foot length by cutting the ends off of it. If I can't get at least 7 feet, then it turns into firewood. And then I bring it over here to the circular saw, and I rip it down in half, so it's roughly 2.5 inches in width. So let's see. Some of these boards look like this one here, and they're not going to be rippable. They're just going to come apart. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to cut them down to about 8 to 9 inches in length and just make kindling out of them. That pile of boards is gone. Cutting it down, it gave me this pile of 8-footers, that pile of 7-footers, this much scrap to turn into kindling. So looking at my project, I'm about 12 boards short, so I think we're going to take the tractor down to the lower property and we're going to bring up about 15 more boards. Okay, I ended up grabbing 18 boards because some of them are a little suspect. I wanted to make sure I had enough. Get them back up to the house. And looking at the 18 boards, I'm thinking I have more boards now, or as many boards now as I did when I first started. And the goal was to just get the boards cut up so I could get at the camper. Oh well, I figure since the saw's out, because it goes back in the garage and it's a pain in the butt to put in there, that we try and get them all cut up. But I've got things going on tonight, so I'm not sure I'm going to get it all done. We'll see. How'd I do? I got rid of the boards, got my workstations cleaned up, put away, and I think I have enough lumber to do all the shelves for one container. Well, at least all the lumber I have on hand. I'm going to have to buy some plywood or something, I think. And this big pile here is for kindling and burning. So that's it. Yesterday we made room so I could get the truck up underneath the camper. So what next? A visit from Bear, apparently. Hi, buddy. How's my kitty? Yeah. You're a good boy. Such a good boy. The truck, she's a bit dirty. Let's give it a bath before we slide it under the camper. There she is, all washed. Again, it's not perfect. It really needs a good detail and get rid of the bugs on the front of it. But since I'm going to be driving it several hundred miles this weekend, there's kind of no point. So if you notice, we got to get rid of the bed cover before we slide the camper on top. So let's take that off next. Here's a sneak peek of an upcoming Procrastination Garage project. Some of these snaps are kind of hard to undo because they've been sitting there for most of the summer. Like that one right there. So what's the plan? Well, I roll the tonneau all the way up to the front and secure it with the Velcro straps, and then we remove the perimeter pieces. So let's get it rolled up. 3 of the 4 crossbars are removed, and then we got to remove the one across the back as well. The crossbar just is spring loaded on this one end. Just slide that in and then go across the other side. And you kind of want to work it back and forth because otherwise the piece of plastic in the other end will come out. And then the back piece here, it's held in with little plastic clips. I don't know if you can see it. Spring, just plastic, push it, and then that slides out like that. All the crossbars are different size and they're all marked accordingly. Like this one says tail, so it goes at the very back. This one is tail center, so it's 1 step forward. These are the clamps that hold that rail down to the bedside. You can see I still need to remove them from this side. They're all different size. Well, there's at least 2 sizes of them, and I never mark them to know where they go. I just figured it out. Of course, I went and got my Allen wrenches, just assuming it was metric, but of course it wasn't. Clamps are off that side. The front disconnects just like it did at the back corners. Now, interestingly, my camper has enough clearance to where I could leave these bedside rails on, and even I could push the camper in and it would push right up against that fabric. The problem is, it's going to push that into the paint on the truck and all the jostling around. It's just not going to be good for it, so I end up taking it off. It's too bad. If I just had a couple more inches of clearance, but it is what it is. How's that for being organized? I even got out my plastic wrap and I wrap both ends so everything stays together nice and neat. So an FYI, if you're looking for this stuff, the best to buy that I found is at U-Haul. It's kind of a bluish green color. It certainly beats this stuff here, which probably came from Walmart or somewhere, but it is nowhere near as good as the stuff from U-Haul. The only thing left is to unlock that cable up there in the corner. I keep that cable in here all the time. That way if I have a ramp or a ladder in the back of the truck, I can quickly lock it up. As far as the cover, why I went so much trouble to wrap it up and put it away, it's not going back on the truck until next spring sometime, because we're just about to the season where the camper goes on the back and stays until probably April. Now that the truck is close, jack it up a little bit and get that stand out of the way. A couple of problems with old campers. One is they're kind of on the narrow side, which means it's really tight getting the truck in there. There's just a couple inches of clearance on both sides. Then the other thing is that the jacks are not long enough for today's tall trucks. So you can see I built these little supports to help, so it's not up as high and dangling, and it's worked out well over the years. So anyway, now it's time to get the truck under there. See, not a whole lot of clearance there. Disregard the camper jack tie down. I could have moved that out of the way. Same on the other side, there's a chain. But like I said, there's not a ton of clearance here. Anyway, we're under it. We're about 1.5 inches on this side, and we're right up against the fender well on this side. And in camper world, that's fine and dandy. As long as it's straight side to side, it's good. So now I'll just lower it down onto the bed. The camper's loaded and tied down. I don't have all my lights. To be honest, I've got more lights than I thought. I've got 3 across the front, but I don't have that one back there. And as we come around the back, I don't have those 4. And then I've got that one there. And I think the way they're wired in series is it goes from that one over to these 3. So I imagine I've got a bad connection either at that light or at that light. So maybe as the sun goes down, I'll check that and see. It's not critical. I'm hauling over in the daylight and I am coming home in the dark, but more than likely nobody will bother me. But we'll look into it. I haven't really started to troubleshoot yet, but I don't have any interior lights either. Notice that lamp right there, the big one, not the little puck lamp, is off. Now give me a second. I just plugged into shore power and now I have it. So that tells me that, I think it means I have a ground issue, that I'm grounding through the converter or inverter, but I'm not grounding through the regular chassis of the camper. So again, I'm going to start up here at these outside lights and see what that gets me. Hello, little Bailey. How are you, sweetie pie? Aw. You want to roll around on the ground? You want Dad to pet you? Yeah. You're a sweet little kitty, aren't you? Yeah. So here's what I'm dealing with. I'm pulling the lights down across the back, and so far all but one of them have been rusty, corroded like this. The wire comes in over here from the camper, and there's 2 wires coming in, and one of them comes to this light, and the other one really is just a continuation down to the next light. So what I've been doing is I've been pulling this connection apart. I've been reconnecting the wires to each other and then sending them down in this hole, recrimping this, and then scraping or sanding all the electrical contacts. Ideally, these all ought to be replaced, but that's not going to happen between now and tomorrow morning. So I'm just trying to get them to where they're working again. It's amazing. This was one of the working ones. It's kind of amazing that it was actually working. But they've been intermittent. There's a dog. Hey, Skeeter. How you doing, sweetie? See, 2 wires come out of the camper. This one here coming from the left side is the hot one, and this one becomes hot when it touches that one, and then it goes down to the next light, and they just piggyback one off the other. We are making progress. Got all the ones across the back. That one there I didn't tear into. It's working. And then that one there was already working. So how are we doing along the front? See, we've got all except that one. So maybe we'll just go ahead and work on that one. You guys are my witness. I've got lights across the front. I've got that light there. I've got lights across the back. And that one right there. So when we leave here tomorrow, we've got all our lights. And an expired license plate. I guess I better go online tonight and renew that. And why did I go to all the trouble of loading the camper on the truck? So I could come over to Puyallup and camp in the city for one night at the fairgrounds. It's the Washington State Snowmobile Association's annual snow show, and I can't miss that because I work it. If you look around the neighborhood, I'm definitely the teardown. But you know what? I might be the only one that's paid for. She ain't fancy, but she's home.
She's going to be here to present to you some information about the existing app and some new and exciting things that she has planned for all of us this coming season. So
And just like that, we're back home and the camper needs to come off. I wish I could leave the camper on, but unfortunately it's not quite time yet. So I won't bore you with the details of pulling it off, but I'll show you when it's done. I know I said I wasn't going to bore you with the details, but I'm lying. I'm going to bore you with a few of the details. Had to make sure all of the tie downs were removed at all four corners. Had to disconnect the electrical. My electrical is not very fancy. It's just a 4-plug that goes into the back of the truck. And then I've also got a cord for the onboard battery charger, and I need to make sure that it's up and out of the way so it doesn't get caught on anything. And then it's just a matter of starting to jack it up. Basically, you got to go around and jack up all four corners. What's interesting is that that corner over there is the lightest corner. So when you jack this corner up, that corner automatically comes up. So basically you jack in 3 places. You jack the 2 front ones and this one, and then you just keep letting that one down to match up. And we just have to jack it up high enough for the bed of the truck to pull out from underneath it. And then I actually have to jack it up higher to get this back under it. But I'm gonna go ahead and get it jacked up and get the truck out. See what I mean? I usually don't let it go this far before I drop it down, but just wanted to show you that you can only need 3 corners of this one jacked up. So I ended up jacking it up pretty much all the way, I think. This part here needs to get underneath this, and it's got a bit of a lip on it, so once it's under there, then it's good to go. So the front's not quite as high, and that's probably okay. So anyway, I'm ready to pull the truck out now. Pretty sketchy looking up that high. Just need to get the base underneath it. There's the base sitting in place. See up front, I put it, those 2x4s that I've got along the bottom, that was to space it up high enough in my truck so the top wouldn't hit my cab. So anyway, the front of the base goes there. The back of the base is right here, and I'll lower down on there. This base I made is sitting on 4 of the cheap Harbor Freight dollies, and so I won't damage the wheels or the dollies or anything. I have these little spacers that right now I just lift the corner up and I slip that under there to take the weight off the wheels, and I've got one for all 4 corners. So next shot it'll be sitting down. It's kind of funny. You might think this is a Ford family if you look around down here by the shop. And truck-wise, I'd say it is a Ford family. And she's off and lowered down on the base. Everything's all set. So you're probably wanting an update on the marker lights. Did they survive the trip? They did. They were still working when I got home yesterday, day before, Saturday night. Interestingly, I don't know if I mentioned it, but the interior lights on the camper weren't working, except if I was plugged in with the converter thing. And by the time the trip was over, the lights are working again without it. So I've got a ground problem somewhere. No clue where. I'm going to have to track it down one of these days. It's not that big of a deal, but you know, hey, I like to have my things working if possible. So let's move on to something else. Well, that's a wrap on this week's Procrastination Garage. I hope you enjoyed as I dinked around with my camper and got ready for a trip and sawed some boards and drove the tractor around a little bit. Remember, the goal of Procrastination Garage is to keep me motivated to do something, to keep me from watching YouTube videos all day and watching TikTok, and to get out there and get some projects done. I hope you enjoy the content. I hope you hit the like button. I hope you subscribe. I hope you tell your friends. Down in the comments, tell me the projects you're working on, or tell me the projects that you're procrastinating about. And remember, my name's Matt. This is Procrastination Garage, and we'll see you next week.